everybody, and welcome to Genre Flip. I'm Ben.
And I'm Erik.
And Genre Flip's a podcast where we take a movie in a clear genre, flip it around, and see if it works in a different genre.
That's right, and this week we're taking the action thriller Die Hard, the classic, and going to try and turn it into a romance.
So this movie does have a little bit of romantic elements to it, of course. John McClane going in and trying to win his wife back. That is, I guess, a little bit romance, but I would say in this movie, obviously 98% action thriller, and then just a little bit of romance in there to keep it interesting.
Yeah, the romance shows up in small moments, and it's what gets him to LA in the first place. Because you want to I'm going to jump on into a little bit of a synopsis here. John McClane is a New York cop, and he goes to L.A. to attend a Christmas party at his wife Holly's company. And she's his estranged wife, but she's invited him to this Christmas party, and he's hoping to rekindle their love while he's here and, be able to see his kids and everything. But as we see at the beginning of the movie, they're still arguing over things. They're not able to rekindle that love that they once had until John McClane is able to fight off a bunch of terrorists, and then they love each other again.
Happily ever after. If you haven't actually seen Die Hard, I know that we guess happily ever after is kind of a spoiler, but you should definitely stop the podcast and go and watch that movie. You can't not have seen Die Hard. It's a fucking good movie.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
But then come back, of course, and listen to the rest of this. But, Die Hard is a pretty straightforward movie. I mean, you pretty much encapsulated all of it. But essentially, it's just a lone cop who is taking down, these terrorists who are holding hostages and trying to rob this company all by himself. He's, taking them down one at a time. And so... our goal, of course, as you mentioned earlier, is to try to flip this over and to make it much more romance heavy. And there could be some action that's still in there, but if it's 99% action and 1% romance, we want to flip it 99% romance. Yeah,
romance, one action.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
I do want to. While we're on the topic of just talking about the movie in general, I love how this was the movie to kick off the trend of having normal dudes, even if he is, a lone wolf cowboy cop taking down a bunch of terrorists one by one.
Oh, yeah.
He feels much more grounded, like a normal guy, as opposed to the action heroes of the time, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone and Dolph Lundgren playing these huge, jacked up warrior men who are able to mow down hordes of people. 12 at a time.
Well, and this is something that almost kind of gave birth to the Vengeance Dad kind of movie as well, because we have, as you mentioned, the regular guy who has had something taken from him and he'll stop at nothing to be able to get his family back, kind of thing. I feel like without Die Hard, we wouldn't have Taken and all the other movies.
Oh yeah, we wouldn't have Taken that line of movies, and also we wouldn't have the line of movies that are just straight up Die Hard ripoffs, like White House Down and Under Siege and all the movies like that, where it's one guy in an isolated location and he's got to take down a group of bad guys one by one.
Nobody did it like Die Hard, though. Nobody was
course.
Barefoot the entire time, which...
True. Stepping on glass.
So when I was watching it this past time, he looks at the... I always was thinking to myself, I was like, why did he not grab anybody's shoes? But he does mention in there, he's like, this guy's feet are like my sister's feet. They're half the size of my foot. So I'm assuming that maybe he just couldn't find anybody's shoes that fit his feet?
I guess so. We see him test that one guy's shoes. I wonder if he had the opportunity to test anybody else's.
That's what I was saying, because he tested the one guy's and that was it. But he had that all that time where he was just kind of hanging out, chatting on the radio, smoking that cig. At one point, I was like, man, you could be testing out all the guys that you killed, all their shoes.
Yeah. I guess he just didn't consider it a absolute priority until he realized oh shit, when Hans is shoot the glass, because he realized that John McClane was barefoot. I don't know. That was a very good way to make the odds even worse for our hero by making him having to walk barefoot on the glass.
Well, yeah, and he goes in and he only has the one gun that he came in with. I mean, of course, being a cop, he's always got a weapon on him. And so, luckily, that aspect of him being a cop was able to give him somewhat of a leg up over, like, just a regular human. But at the same time, as you mentioned, this guy is basically going into this building blind. He doesn't know anything about the building itself, whereas the terrorists are people who it seems like they know things pretty well. Plus, they're very well, they know their weapons pretty well. Like, these are trained professionals at what they're doing.
Oh, absolutely. They went in like with a foolproof plan, not including, John McClane going around.
Right. So let's go ahead and get into mapping out the movie of the things that we may need to make sure that we keep for this genre flip to still maintain the essence of what Die Hard is. So break it down for me. What is Die Hard, Erik?
Well, if we're going to talk core elements, Die Hard as it is a man going to a holiday party to try and rekindle his love with his estranged wife. And while at this holiday party, the building is taken over by a group of evildoers who... I'm trying to keep it as generic as possible. So bad guys, They take over the building. They want something. They're evil. They want money. And so John McClane has to hide away and then take out the bad guys one by one until he saves the day. Gets rid of main bad guy numero uno.
I'm thinking
Hans
that
Gruber.
I mean the whole terrorist portion of the movie is very action movie centric and doesn't lend itself to being a romance. I can't even think of a single romance that's like, oh, the terrorists, love is in the air. So I'm trying to think. I think the
something
core
where
elements.
it's
I mean, you gotta have a tower. You gotta have like a huge building, right? You gotta have
a guy fighting for, basically, if he comes out on top, he wins the love of the woman character, the one woman character in the entire movie, Holly.
Main male character fights for love,
and so he's got to fight the other. They're all men. He's got to fight all these other men for the affection of one woman.
Well, I don't think. Well, I mean, I guess we could go into the genre flip from that approach. I don't think that the terrorists were trying to win the love.
I know, but to make it more romance centric, it would be like if he's fighting them specifically for that purpose. We know that
you
if
could
he
still
loses,
make
he's
it
not
a
going to
Die
get
Hard. Yeah, you could still make it like a Die Hard type movie while it's still kind of more romance heavy.
Right.
All right. What else is there about the Die Hard? Let's see. He's got to. There needs to be writing names on the arm.
Oh yes. I think out of the bad guys, we do need that Hans Gruber character where he's just a leg above the rest in terms of wit and intellect and thinking quick on his feet. He is John McClane's match in terms of those things.
All right. Okay. So a guy, maybe if we're doing this, multiple guys are going into wherever to be able to win the affection of the woman. Maybe he already knows something about the woman, and so he thinks that he has a leg up because he knows what the girl likes.
Oh yeah, Hans Gruber, you're talking about?
Yeah. Okay, let's see. So we've got a tower. We have a main love interest, a girl. So we've got the main guy character who fights for love, John McClane. We've got that people are writing their names on the arm. We've got that Hans Gruber is John McClane's match in that he is someone who knows a lot about either the building that they're in or the woman, or he knows a lot about something that gives him an edge. We've got the main love interest has to be a singular woman, and then I'm trying to think of anything else that we can take from. I mean, people have to be eliminated one by one.
Right. I think Hans Gruber is... Okay, so here is what I'm thinking. This feels very much like a reality show where it's all these guys going in and trying to fight for the affection of one woman. Like The Bachelor, or The Bachelorette, I guess it would be.
So The Bachelorette is the one where it's one woman and then a bunch of men, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay.
It must be that, because The Bachelor is the one dude, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I'm not familiar with those shows. But we'll say this is like The Bachelorette, but with deathly stakes, I guess. And
I mean, I don't know that there needs to be deathly stakes. It's just like a heightened version of The Bachelorette. So it could just be that
game.
there's one woman inside this tower, and there is X amount of men, and the men need to locate the woman and win her affection by the end of the night. And it could just be a thing where, like, whenever a guy goes up to the woman, if she immediately doesn't like him because of something, could be that the guy, it could be as simple as I'm assuming The Bachelorette gets, is that she doesn't find him attractive, or it could be something that is like she doesn't like the way that he treated her in some way, or there's something that just kind of turns her off a little bit. And so it could be one of the things where, like, we see multiple people going up to the woman, they find her in the building, and she doesn't like them, and so they get eliminated. Could be like this whole building is wired with, or like is set up with a whole bunch of cameras all over it, and we see like all of the different men like all over the, like, at the inside of the building locating the woman, and the woman is either in there in this one central location or moving around the building. I don't know, how would we do this?
I would guess the woman is just like going about her business, and she basically has like an apartment on one of these floors and is just hanging out, and then all of these guys are just brought in on the ground floor, and they're just said, find the woman, win her affection, and go. And they just go, and it's a free-for-all, and they're trying to sabotage each other.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, like, the woman doesn't know. She can still be Holly Gennero, but I don't know in this version if we want her to be the estranged wife of John McClane.
Yeah, I don't think that she should be estranged. She should be single.
Right.
Because that'd be weird.
That would be strange. Because I was thinking, like, if they were, formerly a couple living together, then she doesn't know who these contestants are, and John McClane figures out that she's going to be the Bachelorette on this season, so he does what he can to get onto the show, and he thinks this is my one chance to win her back, which is a very weird way for a person in real life to try and win back the love of somebody who's basically broken up with them. But it's a movie.
Well, let's start this thing from the beginning. Okay, so we've got John McClane, who is a man who knew of a woman, Holly Gennero. He knew of her, like maybe they grew up together or something, and he always loved her, but he never got up the courage to tell her how he felt. And when he found out that she was going to be on the season of The Bachelorette, with the twist of it being like in like one tower, one night, you got 24 hours to be able to make her fall in love with you, and you have to be able to like locate her in the tower and win her affection, and then if by the end of the show she picks you, then you end up like with her forever. And so he's like, oh my goodness, I have to be on the show. This is my last chance to be able to win my true love. And so he gets onto the show along with 15 other guys, or however many. They are all set loose into this tower, doing what, like, nothing's off limits, do whatever it takes to be able to win her heart, and by the end of the night, and then you will emerge victorious. Okay? Right. Is it just her affection that they win, or is that some sort of other monetary prize? I mean, what do you win in The Bachelorette? Is it just the love?
I have no idea. I'm going to look it up real quick, because I'm not familiar with these shows at all.
Oh, yeah. We are super into romance.
I wouldn't even really qualify those shows as romance. It's like, I mean, I probably shouldn't say that, given that we're supposed to be turning Die Hard into a romance. But it's like a reality show just centered around bad dates is what it always seemed like to me.
Well, I don't know. Well, it can't be all bad dates, because the whole point of The Bachelor is to find the love of your life. So, I mean, if that show is not a romance, then what is?
But I mean, like, how many of the couples who end up winning on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette end up, like, staying together? There's got to be,
Okay.
like, a monetary incentive because, it's a reality show. Most of the stuff on there is faked.
Okay, but at the same
Like,
time, Holly Gennero and Die Hard and John McClane don't stay together. They break up
right.
too. I mean,
That's true.
it whether they stay together or not, it doesn't matter. I mean, that's the thing about movies is that we don't know for a fact that there's ever going to be a happily ever after. We just need to assume that based on the way that the movie ends.
Yeah, that's true. I just feel like if it was entirely felt like a reality show, I wouldn't feel like the love is real in the end.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's good that we're making them like they knew each other in childhood, they grew up together, maybe they did it a little bit in high school but then broke up by the time they hit like college or something. But John
Right.
McClane has always felt like she's the one or something. That kind of makes him sound like a creep, but I don't know.
Well, it's the thing in romance can be creepy depending on how the woman feels about you. I mean, Twilight is a super creepy movie. I mean,
Oh, that's
Edward
true.
climbing in Bella's window just to watch her sleep, that is creepy as fuck. I mean, but since she was smitten with
She's
him,
into it, yeah.
so she was totally into it. But here's what I'm thinking for this movie: like people need to be like going up and down different floors, trying to locate the girl. And we need to see interactions between Holly Gennero and each of the contestants, like one at a time.
Right.
Like if Holly is in an interaction with another person, there needs to. I mean, you can't have like 15 people all running at her at one time.
It can be like as soon as one person finds her, the first person that she sees, like when they lock eyes, she and them have to go on a little like a fast little date. And there's like a room that's set up with like a dinner table and some kind of, I don't know, appetizer or something. And they have to sit there and they have to talk and they have to eat and they have to try and enjoy themselves. And then after that, she determines if they're good enough to make it to, I don't know, like the next round, or if she eliminates them right there. Or if they have to pass another trial to get to the next stage, something like that.
So basically, she can determine whether they're eliminated there, and then that person just goes home, or she can say like, "All right, I like you. I'd like to see you again. Find me, again on on another level or something like that. Maybe,
Right.
maybe
Let's
like
say,
maybe date number 1 takes place on like the 15th floor or something like that. So people are going up and down the building trying to find out which floor she's actually on. And once they locate her, then they can go in and they can go and like individually date her. And if they don't find her within a certain amount of time, then they're eliminated, kind of thing.
Let's say there's like 3 rounds and they take place on 3 separate days. So the first day, all 15 of these dudes go into the building. They look for her. Once they find her, as long as each of them finds her, they go on a little date with her, and then she decides who to eliminate and who goes on to the next day, who survives. And if you don't find her before the time's up, you're eliminated automatically.
Okay.
So the second day, it's like a similar thing, and then the third day is the final, where she makes her, final choice.
Gotcha. So essentially, the first day it needs to be like quick dates kind of thing. Like it needs to be like
speed dating.
Yeah, kind of speed dating, so that they can get through multiple different people, and then there needs to be like a handful of people that just don't make it. So maybe it's more than 15. I'm thinking it needs to be like a ton of people go in, and like most of them just don't find her. So it needs to be like, it needs to start out, I'm thinking with like between 30 and 50 people, right? And then like on the first day, only 15 people actually only 20 people actually find her, and then she only likes 15. So we can get like a montage love kind of scenario where the girl is like, you see the girl on the same date. It's like the girl is going through one date, but you see it with multiple different guys. And so we keep on seeing different things. And then maybe like at the very end, we see John McClane in there, and she's like, "Do I know you from somewhere?" kind of thing. Like maybe she doesn't really know him super well. And maybe he's coy. Maybe he doesn't want to say, or maybe he should he tell her that there is that romantic connection, from a long time ago.
I think that he might want to save that for the final date, or he wants to save that for when he thinks he's about to be eliminated so he can pull it out last minute. And
Right.
plus, that would also, given that he's on a reality show, that would make him more likely to win because he's providing this like dramatic tension and he's providing a twist that reality shows are so eager for to bring in the ratings.
Yeah, it starts out making it appear, at least to her and the audience that is watching the televised version of this, that he doesn't know her, but we know that, like us, like the actual audience that's watching the movie version, I guess that's a little confusing, and
Right.
John McClane know that he knows her.
See, there can be like, we can see, this could honestly be edited something like a reality show, but we could also be seeing behind the scenes. It could kind of be like, I don't want to say Truman Show-esque, because everybody knows that they're on a show, but we could be getting interviews, like mockumentary style, like The Office, where we could get interviews with John McClane and Hans Gruber and some of the other people where they're just talking to the camera and explaining their intentions and motivations going into this game. And also, I've got an idea. I just want to say it right now before I forget. As they're looking through the building, looking for the floor that Holly's on, I think that if they're just like aimlessly wandering around, picking each other off, that could be fun. But also, there could be clues on different floors, like not necessarily riddles, but just like clues, like numbers hidden in different places that gives them an idea of what floor to go to, things like that. So it puts them on the right track.
Sure.
And on this first day, I'm thinking that Hans Gruber has got to be set up as like the most intelligent of all these guys. He knows how to solve these clues. He knows where to find her exactly, and he knows what she's into. So he goes into this speed date with her, and she almost immediately passes him on to the next round because he is incredibly charming.
Oh yeah,
Just,
and he
like,
needs to
beyond
be the
belief.
the first person to find her, like always.
Oh, yeah.
So it appears as though, like, to the audience that's watching the televised version of this, he's the person that's probably going to win. He is always the one that is finding her in multiple different rounds. He's always the one that is there,
Right.
like finding her like time after time. What I'm thinking is, I just came up with this idea. I think John McClane, I don't know, maybe this is really creepy, but I'm thinking John McClane needs to be like spying on the different dates, like in the in
He's
the
like
air
in the
vents.
vents.
He's in the vents, like looking down on the date, and he's like writing down the things that she says she likes on his arm, so that he can like review that as notes a little bit later on and kind of mark things off. Or
if
he can
you're
write
on-
down the names of people. Maybe he's trying to like not like take out the different guys, and he's like marks them off. There needs to be some sort of like name writing or something writing that he marks off on his arm.
I love that. Given that this is a reality show, that just feels like getting an edge up on the competition. I also feel like there should be a moment where like Holly loves she loves like roses, and there's one rose in this entire building, and they know.
Oh
like,
shit.
if
Dude,
they-
on the different floors you can go and you can find a thing that the girl will like. And it like is
Ooh,
something
yeah.
that will
Gives you an edge up.
give you a leg up. Yeah. So like, and sometimes there's things on the floor that like she doesn't like, and so if you bring in like on one floor there's like chocolates with nuts, and so like they bring it in as like an offering to her. They're like, would you like would you
brought
like
these
this?
for you.
And she's like, I don't like chocolates with nuts. You're
I'm
eliminated.
allergic to nuts. I want her to have like a buzzer button on the table in front of her, and all the guys during the speed dates are like nervously looking down at it, like a bead of sweat falling down their face. And then if she doesn't like them, she just hits the buzzer and it goes, and there's like a trapdoor that opens and they fall all the way to the ground floor.
So John McClane's got a friend on the outside, and he's got his walkie-talkie, and he's
yeah.
like, he's lost. He cannot find his he cannot find the love of his life, and so he hits up. Oh God, what's the guy's name? Oh, Al. He hits up Al, and he's like, hey yo. Al, do you have any insight for me? Like, do you know where she might be? And he's just kind of like talking him through it on the outside. Right? I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to get Al into here.
Yeah. That definitely would be fun to have that element in there. Have a guy on the outside saying like, what's going on? Al could be like, instead of a cop, he could be like a security guard who works on the set of the reality show.
Oh, yeah.
So he can see into like the video village or the editing bay, and he can see this footage as it's being like displayed to them, and he can say like, okay, well, she's currently on a date with this guy, and it looks like he isn't doing too well, so that's great for you. But let me tell you, dude, this Hans Gruber guy, he knows what he's doing. He got there within like 15 minutes, dude. He is on top of his game. He knows what he's doing.
So it needs to be one of the things where there's like a monetary prize with this as well. Like, not only do they get to be with the beautiful woman, there needs to be like $1 million, and that's what Hans Gruber is all about. He doesn't even want to be with the girl. He is just like pretending to be into all of the different things so that he can get the money prize.
Right. So that's his incentive, but he has to pretend like he's in this for the affection of Holly Gennero. And of course he's not.
So, like round one, she has a basic round of like the different speed dating. Like once people find the floor, then she eliminates them, within a 15-minute time of like them being in the room. It's a pretty quick speed date kind of deal. So then it narrows it down like on day 2 to like the top 15 people. So then the second day is like all of them like going throughout the building, trying to find something to like basically you're not even allowed to go in and see her. Like once you find her, you can't go in unless you actually have a thing to go in and give to her.
And you don't know that until you reach her floor. So like you can see her, but you're not allowed in until you have an item. And so John McClane like finally finds her, and he goes up, but there's a bouncer, and he's like, "Do you have an offering?" And he's like, "No." And they're like, you got to find something. You got to come back. You're not allowed in without an offering.
So it turns out that like the floor that the item is that she really loves is not accessible. Like the elevator just doesn't stop on that floor, and he recognizes it. He like looks at the elevator and he sees like, why does it go straight from 25 to 27? Yeah, and so he climbs out like on top of the elevator, and he like climbs up and into the little vent in there so that he can get into the floor to get that good prize.
This I think would be a good moment for him and Hans to kind of go head to head, and they realize like John McClane knows that Hans Gruber is his main the main person who he has to worry about during this competition. But Hans isn't worried about anything. He figures from the beginning that he has this in the bag. He is cocky and overconfident. So Hans Gruber going into this knowing what he does about Holly, he knows that there's one specific item that she will love more than any other, and it's like this amazing rose or something to that effect. And he goes and he knows like it must be hidden in a place where they really don't want you to find it. So he and John are both on this unmarked floor going towards this item. And I figure in the end, John has to come out on top, and I want him to have a message that's like, "Now I have the rose, ho, ho, ho."
Well, I'm thinking, we got to make this a Christmas movie.
Oh, yeah.
So here's what I'm thinking. Either Hans and John McClane end up working together. No, well, I want for John to be shoeless at some point. Like, I want for him to be barefoot. So what I'm thinking needs to happen is he needs to climb something, and he can't get very good footing with the shoes that he's wearing, and so he ends up taking them off to get barefoot, and then Hans Gruber steals his shoes. So even though John ends up getting the item, he doesn't have shoes, and so he's now worried that the girl is going to be like, the thing is nice, but like, why aren't you wearing any shoes?
True. I wonder if while he's shoeless, should he have to encounter an obstacle that is very difficult with no shoes, like broken glass?
It's like the Lego room. Like, oh no, something that would hurt to walk on. It's like it's a room with only gravel for whatever reason.
Ooh. I don't know what would be worse, a room full of Legos or gravel. Probably Legos, because gravel, it's not too bad to walk on barefoot.
Yeah, but that is just, it doesn't make any sense. Like either one of those things.
True.
And plus, I think that if he ends up being like having his feet all bloody, I don't think that she's gonna be into that, no matter what he brings her.
True. That though is giving me the idea that on this floor where the rose is hidden, like it's pretty much an instant you're going to the next round type of item. So Hans and John are both going for it, and along the way to this rose, there's a series of challenges, and
like
either
Indiana
like
Jones.
yeah, like you have to step on the right letters to get to the Jesus's chalice, but something to that effect. And we could either have John and Hans going at it from the same side of the building, like they meet up,
or
with
it's
each
in
other.
the middle and they're coming towards each other.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking initially. And they're both on opposite sides, and they kind of meet in the room with the rose, and that's where they have their standoff. And they realize that, or this is where Hans finally realizes, like, oh, there's somebody who actually like knows what he's doing here, and he could be. I might have met my match.
So, well, I'm thinking that you have to know something about the girl. Like, she said something in date number 1 that leads to like a code word, or that is something. So if there is certain letters that you have to step on the ground to be able to get to this thing, it has to be like something that she said. And so he has to like recall that memory of something like her favorite type of food, or her favorite type of flower, or something like that. And so he has to spell that out on the ground, kind of, or it has to be something related to her, so that she needs to be in on it, so that if somebody actually does bring her that prize, it must be that like, oh, this guy actually paid attention to me. He knows something
right.
that he remembered something that I said, and he brought me the thing that happens to be my favorite. This guy's got a leg up.
Right. So what could it be that she says that clues them in on what letters they have to step on to form the word?
Well, it has to be something that is like either a hobby or something that just like overall means a lot to her.
Right.
Maybe her mom like owned like a flower shop or something like that, and she, like growing up, she I mean, we don't have to go into too much detail as far as backstory is concerned, but you could find out this on the date that she has with John McClane. Could be thing where it's like, so tell me a little bit about your life, and she says like, oh, I grew up on this side of town. My mom owned a flower shop where I worked trimming the roses and stuff. I always loved working with this said flower type thing. And it could be like the name of the flower shop, is like what they have to spell.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So it's her mom's flower shop, and she grew up there, like, loving every second of it. And this was her favorite flower to, like, deal with and to sell. But, yeah, they need to know the name of the flower shop. They need to spell that out with letters on the ground in order to not have the ground, like, crumble on them so they can get to their flower.
Right.
And then bring it to her.
And so I mean, do they both get there at the same time? Who gets the flower? Like, how is John McClane going to get through this?
I think they both need to get to this room, and they're like at the same time they meet each other, and they're like, "What? How did you know how to come here?" Or like Hans is like that to John. John knows that Hans is like he has studied this shit. He's on his game. But Hans is like, I don't understand how somebody else could know as much as I do about this woman. I've done all my research better than anybody else could have. And so John knows about her mom's flower shop from when they were kids. So he just knew that she worked there. Like, he knew her mom. And meanwhile, Hans is having a hard time recollecting exactly what it was that she said, because he doesn't care about her. He cares about the money. So he wasn't really paying that much attention on their speed date. He was just focusing on being charming and eccentric. And so John has the leg up here. He starts going and stepping on the floor tiles, and Hans is like, what the fuck, huh? And then he watches and he sees, and he kind of connects the dots in his mind as John steps on the right tiles, and he realizes, oh my God, he figured this out when I couldn't. This is who I have to watch out for. So in the third round, it's basically down to like 5 people, Hans and John being 2 of them, and Hans is specifically trying to sabotage John McClane because he sees him as the only competition.
He feels like it's only the 2 of them that really even matter, despite the fact that there's 5 that have made it into the final
he doesn't even care about the other 3. I mean, what if the other 3 are guys who are working for Hans behind the scenes and nobody really knows it? So like he's enlisted the help of these other dudes to help him win, and he's planning on sharing like a small portion of the prize money with them.
So like, what if instead of John McClane writing things on his arm, like in being in the vents, like what if it's like like all of the other guys that work with Hans Gruber that are collecting all of this data and feeding it to Hans, like to be able to make sure that he knows every single thing, and that's why he knows all the answers, because all of the people who have like dated her before or have found out any sort of info about her have been able to feed it all to Hans. And so the only the only person, I'm assuming that not all 50 people at the very beginning were working with Hans, but no. I'm assuming that like 5 or 6 people were all working together with Hans. And in the final 5, it's like the 4 people that are all working together and John McClane. And so now Hans is like, shit, there's this one guy who is messing it up for me so that I can't get the money.
Yeah, I had this rigged so that I could win, and now one guy is fucking everything up.
Yeah. So, so he's doing everything that he can to be able to take him down. Is this like going to get into like action portion of the movie where like this is actually going to get violent, or is it going to be something else? Like what other elements from the movie have we not noticed? I mean, I'm thinking that maybe Al like really wants to help out John because he feels like he's the underdog. He feels like he's the guy that's actually the most genuine. And he is a friend of Holly and is like, you know what? I just want her to find someone. I just want her to find someone that is actually going to love her, And I feel like this John guy is somebody that could actually be, be that person.
I was going to say, I feel like a big portion of this movie is the law enforcement, the cops and the FBI coming down to Nakatomi Plaza and doing what they can to try and break into the building or save the hostages. And we can't really have that exact thing in this because it's a reality show and they obviously have like legal use of the building and stuff. But Al, being a security guard, might be able to enlist the help of other security guards to go in and help John McClane. I don't know if that would be considered okay with the rules of this reality show. But he's got to notice. He's at the video village. He sees this raw footage coming in. He knows that Hans and these other guys who are working together, however subtly, maybe they're trying to keep it hidden from the reality show people, but Al notices, like, there's no way this guy could know that without communicating with... There's no way Hans could know this one thing without, speaking with one of the other dudes, so they must be working together. Right. And it seems like Hans knows things that he shouldn't, based on where he is in this game.
Well, and it needs to be one of the things where John McClane is actually ahead after round 2. Like, he does end up getting the flower, does end up getting it to the girl, and she's like, ooh, this John guy, he's actually somebody that I could see myself being with, kind of thing. And so Hans is, like, still in the running, of course, and he's doing everything that it takes to be able to take her down. What if he, like, pulls a fire alarm or something like that?
That would be, yeah.
And it, like... despite the fact, like, maybe this is a live portion of the show, and they're like, and like the producers, you see them in the background, they're like, what the crap? Like, why is why? Who pulled the fire alarm? Is there a fire in the building? What's going on here? And so the cops are sent in to investigate, but they're like, keep rolling. We we need to get all this.
We need this footage.
Yeah. So like the cops are like going into the building like while everything else is going on, but while the cops are there. I mean, like, what does Hans be like? John, he pulled the lever, or no? Like, he's starting fires around here. What is he? I mean, because one of the things that kind of makes it's like Al seems like the only guy that is actually on the same side as John McClane. It seems like everybody else is against him. Like the cops, the FBI, the terrorists, everybody is against John McClane except for Al.
What if? Okay. So let's say during this third competition, John is
and the limo driver.
And Argyle, who drove... Maybe Argyle drove, like, all the contestants here in the limo, and they all sat in the back except for John, who's like, that's weird, I'm going to sit in the front and talk to Argyle. So they form this bond. Meanwhile, all these other dudes are in the back of the limo just broing down or whatever the fuck. And so John and Argyle have this friendship. And so Argyle starts talking to him as well. And I don't know what kind of information he would have considering he's a limo driver.
What if it gets to the point where it's kind of similar to Die Hard where maybe Hans Gruber, like, he loses, right? And John McClane, like, gets the woman, but he or like he was supposed to, but he's like, no, I will not lose, and so he like captures the girl, and he like takes her with him downstairs to where the truck full of money is, and he like maybe like the only way to get into the vehicle, and he knows this, is like for her thumbprint or something to be on it, and so that's why he like kidnaps her and takes her down there, and like Argyle is hanging out in the parking garage,
he
waiting
sees
for
this happening.
and so he drives the limo into the thing to stop Hans.
Okay, what if maybe like Hans and John both have to find some certain item at the end for this round 3 to get up to Holly, but then Hans realizes that he doesn't have the item. He followed like a false trail of clues, or his guys gave him bad information, and so he was led on a path that didn't actually lead anywhere. It was a dead end. Meanwhile, John has found the thing that he needs, and Hans, realizing that like he can't get into the area where Holly is for, her thumbprint without the doors being open, and there's that bouncer there, that he thinks, all right, well, if I pull a fire alarm, then all these doors are going to have to automatically unlock so that anybody who needs to can escape. And so he does that, and he runs in, and he basically kidnaps Holly. And he plans to go down like a back stairwell all the way down to the parking garage where there aren't cameras from the reality show. And
I'm thinking that is where it should ultimately end up, but I think that we're skipping some details here. Like, I think that we need to kind of dive a little bit more into the item that John McClane finds, and it needs to be kind of like the detonators, like all of like all of Hans Gruber and his men are all trying to find John McClane so they can get the detonator, or whatever it actually is during the game show thing, but the detonator for the purpose of it being Die Hard. Like they need to get this from him so that they can then win the affection of the woman for the Bachelorette.
So what if the objective here is it's still a detonator type of thing, but once you find it, you have to go get Holly, and then you have to go up to the roof with her, and when you hit the detonator, it launches a ton of fireworks off the roof, so it's like this huge light show, and this is the moment where the reality show knows that they're going to have cameras up on the roof. They're going to capture like a magical kiss between the winner and Holly.
The first
Meanwhile,
kiss gets
all
to be
these
by fireworks. Oh my God.
And so like they can also get a shot from down on the street, and it's all these huge fireworks going off above this building, and there's this big romantic scene, and it would be a great way to cap off the finale of this season. And so this is their plan all along, and so that's what John is going for. He realizes what they're wanting to do, and he's trying to do this, but meanwhile Hans is forming his own way to take Holly and then escape without finishing the game, because he realizes that John is, closer to getting it than he is.
Right. So maybe, so does he end up getting the detonator away from John, or does he find another way to set off the fireworks? Does John end up getting the kiss with Holly, or does Hans end up getting the kiss with her, and we get to see that low moment for John McClane where he's like, no, like where he feels like all is lost kind of thing?
I think maybe it should like appear that Hans has won the competition, but then it turns out that Al down there as the security guard has taken a tape that confirms that Hans had been cheating and working with other contestants, and that gets him disqualified in the end and allows John to speak with Holly and then explain who he is and how they knew each other. And she's like, oh my God. And she falls like genuinely in love with him in that moment.
Yeah. And I don't want to make Holly just this total, like just bland female character. I feel like we need to expand upon her a little bit here, give her some actual color, you know? Because thing is like, I think that she should, be like whenever she's actually on the dates with these people and talking to them, being like, yeah, a game show is one thing. I just, I really am I'm looking for the love of my life. I want to be able to find this person. We got to humanize her a little bit more. I mean, and that, yeah.
I mean, the thing is, though, this is a reality show, and she knows she's on a reality show. So for the most part, it seems like she would be acting, like she would be in character. And
I guess.
Well, maybe like when we see the behind the scenes, she can be more of a fleshed out human being. Right. Because it seems like, when you watch a reality show, these people are putting on a performance. They're
You're
not
right.
being themselves.
Yeah, I
They're
forgot
being
about
a
like
fictionalized version of themselves.
I forgot about the interviews part. So this like being like the behind the scenes portions of it, where you actually see her, she seems more real rather than it just being the hot prize kind of thing.
And because we're not, the audience of this movie isn't the audience of the reality show, so we get to see like the raw footage before it's edited and they put in all the shitty sound effects and whip pans and zooms and all that stuff to make it all dramatic. So we see her like. She goes on a speed date and she's like, well, I think you've passed, and then allows him to go on to the next round. And then she goes back into her like apartment and she's like, wow, that guy was fucking awful. Like, he's trying way too hard. Like, I know this is a show and shit, but he probably just wants the money. He doesn't even care about me.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe she's given orders through an earpiece to like, all right, you got to let this guy go no matter what because he is drawn in the ratings. We got women ages 35 to 44 going wild over this guy, so we got to keep him on this show. You'd better approve him. So It's like her struggling to wrangle. Like, she thought this might be an opportunity for her to actually find somebody, but she realizes like she's being paid to be an actress here, and she needs to go along with what the producers of the show want.
And she becomes a good friend with Al, the security guard, and that's how he knows like all this information about her. Like the two of them sit together or like maybe in her apartment or whatever, and she's just like, I just really want to find someone. And when I was given this opportunity for this show, I thought that might be the thing, but I don't know. I'm not so sure anymore. I'm thinking that maybe it's just a show and like that this is not actually going to be the way that I find my true love kind of thing. Maybe she starts to give up.
What if Al himself is like a veteran of a reality show where he found his wife and he's like, and now the wife who I met on my reality show, she's pregnant with our first child. And she's like, holy shit, so you can actually find someone on these things? He's like, it worked for me. I don't know if it'll work for you, but here's hoping, Speaking
of Al being pregnant, kind of going back to the actual movie here, man, his poor wife, like he goes out in the middle of the night to go and get these snacks for her because she's pregnant. And then like he never comes back, man.
I mean, was he actually getting them for her?
Well, I mean, we haven't given any reason not to. He doesn't actually eat them himself. We don't see him eat them.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
So if we had seen them eat them, it would have been like, aha, cops are fat kind of joke or whatever.
He does.
Whatever.
When he's talking to John McClane later, he does happen to know the exact ingredients in Twinkies, right?
What? I don't remember this part.
Isn't there a moment where John's like, I had a Twinkie. What's even in those things, huh? And then Al's like, no, blah, blah, number 5, yellow dye, number 3, blah, blah, all these ingredients. And John's like, how do you know that? And he's like, haha, I'm a cop.
I do not remember that part, but I don't know. I mean, like his wife is actually pregnant. Like he addresses that multiple times throughout the movie. So I don't feel like there's any reason for us not to believe that was actually the case.
What if it'd be funny if like you never see his pregnant wife or any of his backstory stuff. So what if Al is just like this guy who lies all the time, so he actually does not have a pregnant wife, but he like found himself in this situation where he lied to the gas station clerk about it, and he's like, well, I guess this will be my character for today. And he just keeps the lie going as he's talking to John McClane. He's like, I got a pregnant wife back home.
I don't know that necessarily is a good. I mean, because the thing is that like Al is like the most likable character in the whole movie at Die Hard. Like he's like the cop who he was out late at night, doing something good for his wife when he gets a call and he's like, yeah, I can help out with this real quick. I'm on my way out, kind of thing. And so then like everything hits the fan, and so then he's the only one that's there, like that's actually like one of the cops that causes everything to change,
Right.
But the thing is like I feel like if he's a character that just lies all the time, that kind of takes away his likability.
That's true. I was just joking around about the original Die Hard, but in our version and in Die Hard, he tells the truth. He's a likable guy. He doesn't. Yeah. He don't lie to nobody.
So so Al is kind of like feeding information to John. Hans is working with everybody else to be able to get all the information to be able to get Holly's love. And so what happens now? We're getting close to the climax of the movie, where I'm thinking the climax of the movie is either John McClane uses the detonator with Holly, and the two of them kiss on the mountaintop, or not mountaintop, on the building top, the rooftop. That's what it is. And then, or it could be a thing where John doesn't make it in time, and Hans actually is the one that shares the kiss with Holly. And so everybody's like, "There you have it, folks. It looks like we have a winner, Hans Gruber, winning the affection of Holly Gennero, and it looks like all is lost for John, but then he's able to." To overcome everything and win her in the end.
You know what this reminds me of is Shrek 2, when Prince Charming kisses Fiona in the end, thinking that's going to like keep her human. But then Shrek rides in on White Stallion Donkey and kisses Fiona, and she, turns back into her ogre form.
I think that we can all agree that Shrek 2 is basically Die Hard, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, Shrek 2 is basically this version of Die Hard that we're making.
yeah. Maybe that's what we were channeling, like by going through it. But
what if Die Hard was actually a Shrek 2?
Do we need to have a low? I mean, look, I don't know where we would even go from here if John McClane actually gets the girl.
It does have to look like Hans is about to win, but then John swoops in at the last minute and proves that he actually has the detonator and uses it to get the fireworks off. They're getting the grand finale of this show, and Hans realizes, like, oh my God, I'm going to lose this. I need to, like, grab Holly. I need to get out of here and get that money fast and just leave. I'm going to leave the country and run away, whatever it takes, because you get, like, $1 million for winning.
Maybe there's, like, two detonators, or, like, John ends up, like... Hans puts John in a situation where he needs to give away the detonator, and he gives him something that's false, And so Hans makes it up to the rooftop first, and he pushes the detonator, getting ready to lean in for the kiss, but then he realizes the fireworks are not going off. And Holly's like, "What's going on? What's the problem? Like why, and then John McClane's like looking for this as he like walks up on the tower, and then like he clicks the button and all the fireworks are going off around them, and then Holly's like, "Oh, John," and like goes and like runs up to him, and then there's this whole big scene where like the camera is like as they go in for the kiss, the camera is like circling around them, like up above them, and Hans Gruber is like, "No, I will not lose," kind of thing, and that's when he goes rogue and he like grabs Holly and just like yanks her away from John, and like all of the rest of his goons like come and they tackle John, so he couldn't like get after him, and so
he's
that's when
fight these guys as Hans and Herg start going down like the fire escape, or they like go into the stairwell on the roof and they start making their way down, and they get all the way down to the parking garage, and this is where Argyle is down there just waiting. And he knows, like, he had a bad feeling about Hans, so he sees her leading Holly down into the parking garage. He's like, there aren't any cameras down there, and it looks like she's struggling, so I need to do something. And I want Argyle to run over Hans Gruber with his limo.
But the thing is, like, that can't be caught on camera.
That's true.
Like maybe on like live like reality TV, if like Argyle just like murders somebody.
What if I mean, they don't have cameras down there, but what if Al, seeing that this is what was happening, knows like I need footage of whatever the fuck is about to happen, so he grabs one of the cameras and runs towards the parking garage, knowing like that's where Hans must be going because that's where the money is being stored in the car. And so he runs in there and he sees Hans running out of the stairwell with Holly, and he's capturing them on film, and that's when we see Argyle like driving towards Hans. He doesn't have to kill him. He could just like pin his legs to another car. I just want Hans to meet not like a grisly end, but if he's going to do this and try to kidnap Holly and get away and steal the money, there needs to be some sort of big maneuver that, stops the villain in his tracks.
Okay. So Argyle goes and he like Is it going to be one of the things where like they actually get into the car and then Argyle slams into them, making it so that the car is now useless? So now, like, even though
I think like once Hans uses Holly's thumbprint to get into the car, he's like, I don't need you anymore, go. And she like runs away, and Argyle is like, this is my chance. So Hans opens like the back of the car, like the trunk door. He opens it up and he sees all this money in there. And then Argyle's in the limo behind him, and he like slowly turns it on. And Hans realizes what's happening, and he turns around just in time for Argyle to smash into him. And all of these dollar bills go flying everywhere.
I'm thinking instead of it being like, I think this needs to be more of a comedic moment. I'm thinking that since he's opened up the trunk and he's looking in the back there, if Argyle slams into him, it somehow needs to push him into the trunk and then shut the trunk. So he's now trapped in there with all the money. So that like you get this shot where like they open the trunk and John is there with Holly in his arms, and all the cops just like all put down like all aim the guns at him all at once, and then you see Hans Gruber like put his hands up and be like like a weird kind of smile kind of thing, like as he knows, he's like, oh, I've been foiled kind of thing.
Okay, so like Hans opens the trunk and he sees all the money, and then he hears like tires squealing behind him, so he turns around and sees Argyle about to hit him with the limo. So he jumps into the trunk, and then Argyle hits the back of the car and the trunk slams shut, and he's just stuck in there until people find him. That's great.
Yes, yeah, and so that kind of that wraps up his character, because he's now not going to win the money and all that stuff. And so then, of course, there needs to be this moment between John and Holly where he tells her now, like he's like, look, you may not remember this, but I am this guy. And she's like, oh my gosh, I thought you looked familiar, like or something where it's like my long lost love kind of thing.
She's like, John McClane? It used to go by Jimmy. He's like, it's John now.
Oh, John. Then there needs to be a thing where he just kind of reiterates the fact that he was in it for her, not for the money.
Right. He's like, I don't even care about that money. I just wanted to see you again and tell you about the feelings that I still have for you to this day. She's
and
like,
then
oh my God, John, no way.
And then he ends up giving the money to Al for their newborn baby from the first reality TV show wife or something.
Right. So maybe Al can be talking to him, and he's like, yeah, I may have won the reality show, but that doesn't save everything in this world. I don't know how we're going to put him through college, how we're going to pay for his upbringing. And so that's why John decides, like, here, you deserve this, you help me. Or maybe they split it, because that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that is a lot of money. Here, take $1 million. I'm just a cop from New York. What do I need money for?
He realizes, like, wait, I'm still like living on the edge of poverty here. Shit, I should have kept a little bit of that.
All right, man. Well, that pretty much wraps up the movie. Do we want to do like a quick synopsis of like what this new movie is in like a 2-minute like run through?
Sure.
Okay. Do you want to do it, or do you want me to do it?
I can do it, and you can hop in wherever you want.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. So there is a reality show. It's called Nakatomi Love, and it takes place in this big old skyscraper in LA, and you've got 30 guys who are all fighting for the affection of one woman. And this season, the woman is Holly Gennero, and she's I don't know, supermodel or something. And John McClane is a guy who was her childhood friend, and they grew up, and they dated a little while in high school, but ultimately broke up before they reached adulthood. And he has always had feelings for her. He thinks of her as like the one who got away, and normally that would sound creepy, but in this scenario, it's adorable because it's a romance movie, and that kind of thing is normal in romance movies.
Well, and 10 years later, cut to 10 years later, and she is on this reality dating show, and he's still in love with her, and he wants to be with her. So he finagles it and makes it so that he can get on to this reality TV show where it is set up so that Hans Gruber could win, because a lot of his cronies are also members of the show. So they end up battling it out. Many people get eliminated, but John McClane and Hans Gruber end up making it to the end together as the two characters characters who are down to the wire. You don't know which one's going to ultimately end up winning. John McClane has a come from behind finish where he ends up winning her affection at the last minute. Hans Gruber, steals her away and, tries to steal the money because he didn't care about her this whole time. Big surprise. He just wanted the millions of dollars, where he ultimately ends up falling flat on his face. He doesn't win anything, and John McClane ends up with everything: the money, the girl, the whole kit and caboodle.
Yes, thanks to his own ingenuity and thanks to his friends security guard Al and limo driver Argyle, and they lived happily ever after.
The end.
I like this. This seems like a fun reality show based romance movie.
Yeah. It's something that I don't think has really been done before. The Bachelorette is something that is very common, but adding the actiony elements of having to search for clues, it's almost like a combination between multiple reality shows. You got Survivor, elements plus the Bachelorette plus Die Hard, obviously, being the main component of the whole big tower where they're writing down clues and stuff on their arm to be able to win the affection of the one that they love, kind of thing. It's I don't know. I like this. Is definitely a movie that I'd go and see. When is this coming out? Is that coming out this summer?
Dude, it's gonna come out Valentine's Day.
Oh, Valentine's Day, yes. So. Coming out next week on whenever Valentine's Day is. I don't know, the 14th, whatever.
We will shoot and release this movie in the next week. So
be on the lookout. February is the month of love, of course, as you know, as we're talking about Valentine's Day. So throughout the remainder of this month, we're going to continue to do more and more romance movies. This next week, we're going to end up doing the 50 Shades of Grey. We're going to end up doing 50 Shades of Grey as if it was... I
actually have not seen it, so this will be my first time.
As a Pixar movie. Oh, yeah. So we're going to watch 50 Shades of Grey and turn it into a Pixar movie. So pretty much make it the opposite of what it is, and then we'll continue to make more and more romance movies throughout the remainder of the month. So
that's right.
Thank you so much for listening. Make sure that you leave a comment for anything that you enjoyed, didn't enjoy. We want to make sure that this is something that you actually love. Feel free to leave suggestions for movies that we should do in the future, or genres that we should flip things into, or even elements that we should incorporate into a genre flip. Anything else that you want to add, Erik?
I think that's it. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate it.
This Valentine's Day, John McClane has come to LA to reconnect with the woman of his dreams, but now he has to win her.
Welcome back to Nakatomi Love, the game show where 50 contestants have to fight for the love of one woman.
Hi, I'm Holly Gennero, and I'm the one woman.
Meet the eager contestants. I'm just a New York cop. I've loved Holly my whole life, but I don't know if she even remembers me.
My name is Hans Gruber, and I'm going to win the the love of Holly.
Welcome to the party, pal. Will Holly be able to find the man of her dreams? Find out this season on Nakatomi Love.
10 points from Gryffindor.